45 seconds of logos.
45 seconds of logos.
Even in a slightly apocalyptic future, can't Logan find better work than being a limo driver? It would have been much less action, but the movie right before this one about how he got to this point would sure be interesting.
So you think a movie about how Logan becomes a limo driver would be interesting, and you say this on a video where you're nitpicking this amazing film. I can't be the only one that sees what's wrong with this picture.
Well, yes, he's old and busted now and weaker, but still, how many times do we need to see the random criminal outfit underestimates Wolverine's abilities and ends up dead because of it routine?
Every single time there's a Wolverine movie, because that shit is awesome as f***.
You cannot put on a white shirt over fresh bloody wounds and expect to maintain said shirt's whiteness.
Doesn't really matter, does it? Especially considering he's wearing a jacket over this shirt the majority of the time.
Hey Clyde, it's 2029.
Thanks for the date certainty, futuristic talk radio buffoon.
Says the guy that expected lasers and phasers in Blade Runner 2049. If they didn't tell you the date, you'd be all, why is Picard old? Where are all the other mutants? Why are all these Tesla semis mainstream?
Also, I'm beginning to think it's not officially a comic book movie unless one of the heroes is brooding next to a cemetery in at least one shot.
Well, let's see. This didn't happen in Captain Marvel, Avengers Infinity War, or Endgame, Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, Blade, Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor 1, 2, or 3, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Panther, X-Men Apocalypse, Captain America, The First Avenger.
Wolverine, I knew it was you.
How did she know it was him? He did nothing Wolverine-like here.
Pretending you don't know how she knew this information, eh? This was explained in this scene.
How did you find me, huh? Because you're fucking up my life, lady.
Sightings were posted.
What?
Go inside.
What sightings?
People said someone looked like the Wolverine was in El Paso driving. Said he looked old.
This guy's not a Terminator or Bucky Barnes, but he does have a metal hand you should feel ominous about, I guess.
Jeremy points things out on the screen while also making a pop culture reference. How many sins do you think we're going to give him for that? That's right.
Kind of Logan to carry Professor X to his bed for some rest, and I'd be calmed by this imagery if he wasn't also leaving the wheelchair so far away from the bed as to render Charles immobile until further human assistance arrives.
That is literally the point. Charles has Alzheimer's, and he's a danger to anyone that he is around. Frankly, giving him his wheelchair in the first place isn't a smart move.
F*** off, Logan.
Alright, even Professor X is saying F***. We are all having a good time.
Yes, we are. You're the only one trying to shit on our parade.
There are no new mutants, understand? There's been a new one born in 25 years.
That seems like the exact circumstances of the movie Children of Men, which made about 15% of what this movie made. Too bad Children of Men didn't have a Wolverine character, so more people could have seen it.
What the hell does that have to do with this film? That the premise is similar to a slightly inferior film and that it's sinful more people saw this than that? So you're sending a film for accomplishing its goal? Getting people to come see it?
That bad guy earlier in the limo straight up told Logan he knew about his keeping Professor X down here in Mexico. So why did Logan promptly take zero security precautions upon arriving here?
What the heck do you want him to do? Set up some miniguns and traps? This ain't Rambo. Wolverine is the security precaution.
Busted-ass Wolverine can't even get all his claws out without assistance, which I'm just now realizing is the most brutal ED joke ever. God damn.
Always talking about the dicks, Jer. Because of the presence of pus, this is actually due to paronychia, a bacterial disease of the nails that affects humans and cats and their ability to retract their claws. Because James's healing factor is failing him, his body can't get rid of the infection, and therefore he has trouble extending his claws.
Or the pus you're wiping away from your knuckles, or the blood I wash from your clothes, or the fresh wounds in your chest.
This guy started out like a genuine character who cares, but now I see he's just an exposition machine.
You know, if you just shut the hell up and pay attention, you'd realize how silly the ED joke you made was. See what I mean? Complains when movies don't explain something, and complain when they do.
There is no pleasing you.
Hey, driver!
At the film's first script meeting, a producer asked, "We have an R rating, so what should we do?" Immediately, Tad jumped up and wrote boobs on the whiteboard, and everyone laughed, and then the laughing got violent and out of control, and everyone started high-fiving everyone else in the face, and everyone...
Skip!
Here, take this.
Gabriella could have easily bought or rented a car that Pierce didn't recognize and made the North Dakota trip herself.
Considering her arm is pretty much useless and she's being chased by enhanced mercenaries, no, she couldn't.
So Gabriella is dead, but what was it that finally led Pierce here? Did he go through the yellow pages and call every single motel asking about a mom and her daughter until he got the one where the manager was like, "Yes, I know who you're talking about. The little girls always fucking shit up in the parking lot. Murder them promptly, please."
Gabriella specifically states that they've made out her car, so it isn't a stretch to assume that with all their resources they were able to access some CCTVs or something.
These guys killed Gabriella but didn't search the room for her phone. What a bunch of fucking amateurs.
Right, because they were actually looking for her phone and not the mutant with killer claws that was no longer in the room.
Also, good thing Logan was curious of the whereabouts of her phone, eh? Good thing Gabriella stuck it in a drawer and knew Logan would go searching for it, since it contains the video evidence germane to the plot.
Earlier, Logan saw that was the place she stashed the money, so it only makes sense for him to check there.
When did Logan open up the trunk to his limo? He drove in, immediately started walking into the shelter, and then the trunk magically opened. I guess Laura could have done it somehow, but why open the trunk and immediately hide again? Especially since we find out she's a ridiculously badass mini Wolverine.
We've reached a new level of absurdity here. You've answered your original premise with a question. Anyway, it's obvious why she would hide. She doesn't trust Wolverine. Duh.
Also, she stowed away in his limo trunk. Fine. He didn't hear her get in or anything on the long drive to Mexico. Fine. But a girl that age didn't need food or a restroom anywhere along the journey.
Dude, Logan works in El Paso, which is literally a 10-minute drive to this location in northern Mexico.
Long after making the threat, villain guy finally shows up to Logan's cue ball compound in Mexico. And of course, he's in a black SUV.
He didn't threaten Logan, he asked for his help. The reason he's showing up now is because he assumed Logan had taken X-23, and he's angry Logan didn't call him once he found Gabriella.
She's not a mutant.
Yes, she is.
What's her gift, Charles?
Eating, pipe throwing.
This premature questioning of Laura's powers is brought to you by the wholesome goodness of Kellogg's cornflakes.
Everything wrong with Logan, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, I see something I recognize.
Also, Jesus, he's known and been around her, 10 minutes? Why is he so certain she's not a mutant? Has Charles previously declared dozens of other children to be the one he was predicting only to be wrong, thereby giving Wolverine a reason for this instant doubt?
Considering Professor X has Alzheimer's and the fact that there hadn't been a mutant born in 25 years...
Why would you think ahead enough to have this camera on monitor, but not have anything further out from the property as an early warning device regarding unwanted visitors?
You're asking, like, a lot from Wolverine. Who the hell do you think he is? The guards at Area 51?
Let's be clear, she's watching all this shit go down on the monitor, but doesn't stop eating her cereal and act until her own life is threatened. Yes, self-preservation is strong, especially with kids, but the way this plays out suggests she has zero heart and is fine munching on cornflakes while Wolverine gets the shit kicked out of him.
Yes, that's exactly it. She's almost exactly like Wolverine in this regard. Besides, she's functionally immortal. She has nothing to be afraid of, especially some guys with guns.
They're here to capture this girl, but do nothing for several seconds after she walks outside. I guess because she's carrying a head, but whatever.
Because unlike you, they recognize how potentially dangerous she is.
Pierce told this guy to stop shooting because she heals, but the director of the film wants this action scene to seem more exciting, so shooting.
To be fair, shooting Wolverine in X-23 still hurts them and can potentially slow them down.
Hit girl, eat your heart out!
Yes, he removed sins, but he still did that fake f***ing laugh.
Okay, so Logan found this phone in the motel room where Gabriella got murdered, but there are two things that bother me about him watching this video. First, the phone apparently has no auto lock, unless Gabriella went to her settings to prevent the auto lock. Second, even if she did set it this way, the battery life on the phone was at 57% when Logan found it, meaning it survived an entire trip to Mexico and countless more hours being constantly on. Third, what exactly told Logan to go back to her phone and find videos on it?
I also have a couple things to say. First, you're confusing auto lock with auto sleep. If a phone has no passcode, it can still shut off the screen, known as sleep. This is how it survived the 10-minute drive from El Paso to northern Mexico. And second, I thought you said there were 2 things bothering you about this video. You listed 3. Can you count? Besides, the first thing I'm doing if I have an unlocked woman's phone is going through her pictures and videos.
This top-secret illegal research facility sure has no one monitoring to make sure employees don't videotape the harsh conditions inside.
If you pay attention to the perspective of this video, it's obvious that she's filming this in secret and is perhaps hiding the phone in some way. Also, videotape.
They're making soldiers.
But perhaps more importantly, they're letting me film wherever the f*** I damn well please. It's like I'm not even here. I don't even know why I was trying to be stealthy about it earlier.
Again, the phone is very likely concealed, perhaps in a breast pocket.
Also, movie steals the flashback from Captain America Civil War.
What?
Logan helping Charles pee is a scene I could have gone the rest of my life without seeing and I'd have been happy.
How puritanical are you that you can't stomach seeing the feet of a man helping a disabled man relieve himself?
These two.
Not okay.
Hilarious moment, but still, nanoseconds away from this being filleted. This is basically comic timing ex machina here.
Sinning something you like, combined with pointing things out on the screen and misusing Deus Ex Machina, all in the same sin? Guess how many sins we're giving for all of that? That's right.
I read about a place up north.
And on that vague statement, the entirety of this movie's plot will hinge. She read about it. Thank God it's actually real. She risked kids' lives on that.
She actually saved their lives because they were being killed once they began developing X-24.
Also, did Gabriella have access to premium editing software? She's able to use the audio from her testimonial and lay it on top of all the other footage she's using. And she couldn't have had much time to do this.
Wait, what was that?
She's able to use the audio from her testimonial and lay it on top of all the other footage she's using.
One more time.
And lay it on top of all the other footage she's using.
Eugene?
She's using.
Good afternoon.
Movie decides you can drive from Mexico to Oklahoma City without any U.S. cops noticing all the bullet holes and road rage damage to your car and pulling you over.
Narrator of CinemaSins thinks cops can pull you over without probable cause simply because your car has damage.
This is a f***ing huge hotel room. For folks trying to lay low and simply get to Canada, they sure did splurge on the hotel room budget.
Canada? They're going to Oregon. South Dakota.
It's shocking how much Logan and Jason Bourne have in common, actually.
Jeremy continues to have a Bourner for Jason Bourne.
If Charles is strong and imbalanced enough to cause this sort of thing, why is Logan the only individual just unfazed enough to walk and push elevator buttons and He's got healing powers and indestructible metal on his skeleton. He has zero mind powers whatsoever, though this movie is named after him, and perhaps that's enough.
Actually, one of Wolverine's abilities is resistance to telepathy, due to a combination of his healing factor and his adamantium skull.
Thanks, Stan. I'm not going to have to spray you for trying to criticize me, am I?
Oh god, please, not to spray again. I won't even bring up that you think mansplaining is sexy.
And even though all that was caught on camera and they were super lots of stories up, they will still get out before some SWAT invasion of this lobby.
Yeah, because as you can see from the other patrons of this casino, they just got mentally butt-f***ed by a senile Professor X and are still recovering from the effects.
This movie accurately predicts the near future of automated semi-trucks, but
Auto trucks.
sins by going too far overboard to draw attention to it.
Oh, that's a sin? Because I'm fairly certain that I've had to sit through countless hours of you drawing attention to things.
Because some stupid auto truck decides to change lanes for no reason, this movie finds a 20-minute detour where Logan and crew are essentially responsible for a chain of events leading to the killing of an innocent family.
Actually, the film implies that these trucks were tampered with to hurt that innocent family, meaning they actually did their job. If you were actually doing your job, you'd have heard them say this.
Canewood Beverage bought up everything out here except for us. When we wouldn't sell, they tried eminent domain. Then screw 'em with our water. A couple of months ago, somebody poisoned our dogs.
So out on the highway today with those trucks.
Who knows? Maybe.
We should help them.
No, we have to keep going. Someone will come along.
Logan is totally right, of course, but ultimately decides that placing an innocent family in danger is okay, because it would be rude not to help them, and go to their house for dinner and spend the night.
None of this was Logan's decision. He was basically forced into those decisions by Charles and the family themselves.
Well, the government-funded hate squad does at least know how to find a good sunset to pose in front of.
Everything wrong with Logan, ladies and gentlemen. Great cinematography.
We'll find a motel.
Well, the nearest one is 2 hours from here. It's not even that nice.
According to the clock, it's 7:30. The nearest motel is 2 hours away, which means it will be the super late hour of 9:30 by the time they get there. So I totally agree with their decision to stay at this house, since anything past 9 leads to sleep deprivation and Mad Max Fury Road conditions.
The point isn't that it's going to be really late for them. It's that they are most likely tired and should rest. Besides, this dude is a farmer. 9:30 is super late to him.
You want some dessert?
2 days on the road, only one meal and hardly any sleep.
Charles convinces Logan to stay at this house because of the lack of sleep, but why can't he and Laura sleep in the car?
Have you ever slept in a pickup truck? My guess is no, because you're asking this question.
Nate really loves horses, and drawing pictures of horses, and generally all things horse. In fact, this is an orgy of evidence that this kid loves him some horses. But don't pigeonhole him. He's really into deathcore bands and Abraham Lincoln, too.
Republican presidents, deathcore, and horses? Welcome to the southern United States. Wait a minute. Aren't you from f***ing Tennessee? Why are you questioning... Oh.
Evil Corporation, bent on creating children warriors, wasn't all bad. They took fun group photos and probably had pizza day sometimes.
If you were actually watching the movie you're watching, you'd have noticed that earlier in the film, the nurses were shown to have gotten admonished for treating the kids like, well, kids.
Don't think of them as children. Think of them as things, with patents and copyrights. Comprende?
Sí, señor.
This entire scene unfortunately telegraphs that this person isn't really Logan. He's always too far to the edge of the screen or shrouded in shadow. And it's evil clone Logan, who looks very much like real Logan. So they could have been way less coy with shots like this if they wanted to fool us. Imagine if you saw Logan here with enough light to see features on his face, and you weren't triggered by the camera work that something was amiss, and then you see someone you legit think is Logan stab Charles? That would have ruled.
For the vast, vast majority of people who watched this movie, that's exactly what happened. For the edgy motherfuckers that like to pretend they knew what was going on, like the people swearing they knew Graves was Grindelwald and that Nick Fury wasn't actually dead in The Winter Soldier, shut the fuck up!
This was, without a doubt, the most perfect night I've had in a very long time.
Aww, this moment almost makes me forget how stupid it was to stay here.
Jeremy sends something he likes cliche.
I was already bothered at how he basically ignored Logan, because he didn't ignore anyone else in this house thus far. But why does he have to walk all slow like a Terminator?
Well, he ignored Logan because he didn't attack him, something everyone in this house did, with the exception of Charles, who was one of his 2 targets in this mission. He walks slow because he's basically invincible. Kind of like a Terminator.
You know it's a Marvel movie when you see the main hero fighting against a stronger bastardization of himself.
This is not a Marvel movie. I mean, okay, sure, Disney now owns this film, but when it was made, it was a Fox film. And are we just pretending that Man of Steel didn't have Superman fight Zod and Feora? That The Dark Knight Rises didn't have Batman fighting another member of the League of Shadows and Bane? That Batman v Superman that Batman v Superman didn't have Superman literally fighting a bastardized Kryptonian?
How the f*** is this guy still alive? He was stabbed in the chest and thrown down some stairs.
50 Cent was shot 9 times, a few of them in the face, and he's still trolling people in 2019.
Laura probably has the strength to carry Wolverine, and maybe has the ability to steal a truck. But how did she drive it? Did she use an umbrella and cane to reach the gas and brake pedals?
The actress that plays X-23 in this film is 4'11". I know the 6'2" huge jacked man makes her look like a shrimp, but 5 feet tall is enough to be able to drive a vehicle.
I don't know how you got me here, but, thank you.
De nada.
I guess Laura's world is like Star Wars, where people speak 2 different languages to each other and understand everything.
First of all, Spanish is the 3rd most spoken language in the world, 2nd most spoken in the United States. We understand simple Spanish terms like de nada. Second, Laura speaks English as a 2nd language, so of course she understands Wolverine.
It is a 2-day drive.
Wait, you were in Oklahoma City having come from Mexico. You traveled north from there, found the farm family you helped kill, then passed out the next day while driving, and the girl drove you to a tiny town doctor. So you're probably in Kansas, maybe even Nebraska. My point is that it's only a 2-day drive from North Dakota if you go by bicycle.
Actually, if you look closely at the license plate of this truck, it strongly resembles this license plate. And after some digging around, I found that this scene was filmed in Amite, Louisiana. Going back to your map here, I'd suggest that Logan was right about this being a 2-day drive.
No comprende.
You are dying.
Were you just speaking Spanish out of spite?
Considering she has a heavy accent while speaking English, no, you idiot! English is her 2nd language, meaning it's far more comfortable for her to speak Spanish when she quickly wants to get a thought across. You remind me of those morons trying to tell other people to speak English just because it's more comfortable for you. Fuck you.
I'm guessing Laura is driving this car, either using the toys from Toy Story 2 or the fish from Finding Dory.
I'm not going to repeat myself. She's tall enough to reach the pedals. Boom.
This movie suddenly got all hook on my ass. Bang-a-rang!
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the film cliche.
You had a nightmare.
Yeah, it was called Van Helsing.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the film cliche.
Bad happens to people I care about.
Maybe it's true, but it's also the most overused trick for superheroes on film to push people away to create emotional conflict, so forgive me if I am unmoved.
And it makes sense every single time. Think about it. Whenever a villain learns the identity of Spider-Man, Aunt May, Mary Jane, and Gwen Stacy all somehow get tied up in danger. James is 197 years old here. He's seen an absurd amount of people he's cared for wind up dead because people want to get to him, like his wife, Itsu.
Logan's Run.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the film cliche. Now, do you understand why I shortened this?
Kinda wish I knew what all these kids' powers were before they got to this point. I guess somebody has the power to control plants, and I guess they're called Arborman, or Arborman, or something. This kid is using some sort of force field or blurry power, and the others appear to be doing stuff that we never learn about.
Do you see what I mean? Earlier, he sends Caliban for explaining that Wolverine isn't healing, but right now, he's asking for an explanation for these powers, as if just showing them isn't enough.
So this is a touching moment, and the movie can be praised for actually killing big characters during it. But as much as I love Laura turning this cross to make it look like an X, couldn't they have taken him across the border and buried him in Canada, his place of birth? I mean, the guy gets buried 500 feet away from his home country, and I'm supposed to be moved?
Jeremy sends this scene. Hey, 50, get the strap.